The Blue Jays losing streak extends to 4 games as they drop another one against the Boston Red Sox. They've lost the series, but that is not the big story out of Toronto. It is Brandon Barriera, the first round draft pick from last year of the Toronto Blue Jays, who made his pro debut in A-ball today. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, if you witnessed that Blue Jays game, I'm sorry, and welcome into the Jays post-game show, if you will. But we will be talking a lot about Brandon Barriera. That game was a bit of a wash. Let's try to get back at it tomorrow and salvage 1 out of 4 against the Boston Red Sox. But the big news, man, is our first-round draft pick, and did he look good tonight?
Yeah, and he's our number 2 prospect. Before we get into that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7K, and let's focus on the positive for tonight. We'll touch on the game briefly after this topic here, but let's focus on Brandon Barriera. Insane debut in, like you said, his pro debut, and what a game for him. And the game wasn't televised anywhere. It wasn't really, you couldn't get any video clips. We do have one video clip for you, which is, it's a pretty cool angle. But before we get into that, let's just go over his line. And he is a lefty. He throws, pretty much gas. He's the number 2 Blue Jays prospect behind Ricky Tiedemann, and he pitches a little bit like Ricky Tiedemann, at least the windup, which you'll see in a second. But he spent 4 hitless frames for the Dunedin Blue Jays, his 6 strikeouts, 85.8 miles per hour slider. You can see stuff here. It's a good fastball at 96, and he relies a lot on his plus slider. So, Peter, obviously we couldn't watch the game, but you can see, of course, his line: 4 innings pitched, 1 walk, 6 Ks, and 49 pitches. What were your thoughts on this news? Obviously, we couldn't watch it to make any full conclusions, but it seems like he dominated.
Well, he's a kid that exudes confidence, and you could tell by the day he was drafted. He said he wants to be the best pitcher in the world. Now, I thought that was a little outrageous coming from an 18-year-old who never pitched above high school level baseball, but he decided to forego college. He went straight to the pros, and this is his debut. I mean, he's been working up to this moment, bullpens, and nothing simulates the real thing. This was the real thing for him, and shout out to him, man. He came out hot. 4 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, only 1 walk, and no hits given up either. So his stuff seems to be off the charts, but he is 18 years old, so we've got to remember that he's a ways away from the big leagues, and it'll probably be maybe another 4 years at least, or 3 or 4 years at least, before we see him make an impact at the major league level. But there's nothing wrong with him dominating early on in his pro debut and skyrocketing through the ranks.
Yeah, and it's looking like 2026 probably is what some people are saying on Twitter, which is obviously 3 or 4 years away. But like you said, our prospect pool at the top now, we have 2 fireball lefties in Tiedemann and Barriera. And Barriera came on quick, jumping all the way up to number 2. I don't know what he was ranked last pipeline, but he definitely wasn't that. But if you haven't seen Brandon, this was the best clip we could get, just a cool side angle. And like me and Peter watched this off camera, it looks Tiedemann-esque, very, very, very Tiedemann-esque, and obviously we couldn't see much. Good on whoever recorded this to get a pretty high definition clip. And I'll quickly go over some of the stuff from today's game. So Thomas Hall said Brandon Barriera had a rather great outing during his first professional start. Of course, you see that there. His slider was filthy, and you can see here it induced 7 whiffs on 11 swings. His future is very bright. And you can pause the video and look at those stats if you want. And we're mainly highlighting these because there's obviously no clips of today's games. This is kind of the best we can do regarding that. But again, he averaged 93.5 miles per hour, maxing out at 95.8 with great RPMs. But again, he's only 18, so we expect that velocity to climb a little bit. And hopefully, Ricky Tiedemann touched, 100 in spring training this year. Maybe Brandon Barriera in a couple years will be a similar type of pitcher. And having 2 fireball lefties is very, very rare.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And Barriera actually touched 98 in some of his bullpen sessions early on in the season, and he's not the only one with great potential. Shout out to Thomas Hall. This guy's legit, man. If you guys want to follow Jay's Twitter and want someone legit, Thomas Hall is the guy for you, because he knows everything about this team. He knows them like the back of his hand. But yeah, Brandon Barriera got special potential, and I want to throw a question at you here, Nick. Do you think he's a potential trade chip at the deadline, with Ricky Tiedemann being the top prospect a little bit closer to the major leagues? Can the Jays look to trade Brandon Barriera for someone that helps them win right now? Because I know it's a 4-game skid. We don't want to overreact to games early on in May, but what if the Jays need that one, moving piece, that piece that moves the needle at the deadline, and Barriera is what's needed to get it done? Are you doing it?
That's a good question. I think I'll have to wait and see at the time what our record is. As of now, I think we're just hold off for now. But it completely depends on the player, and we're gonna have tons of
Yeah.
videos discussing trade possibilities because it's
Yeah.
one of the fun things to do. But it's also, the Blue Jays are going to be very active this trade deadline. But it's a very good question and one that I'm sure we'll certainly revisit because I do not see them. It's a great point because I don't see them trading Ricky Tiedemann at all at this point, unless it's for a surefire ace, maybe Corbin Burns or someone like that, who we might be discussing in a future video there. But again, we'll have that discussion in the future. But is there anything else you want to touch on before we go into the more unfortunate part of the video? But also, yeah, quick shout out to Thomas Hall. We use a lot of his tweets, and he's a great writer.
Yeah, he is a great writer. And yeah, shout out again to Brandon Barriera. Great pro debut. You want to see these guys come in with confidence and dominate right from the get-go. And I have a feeling he won't be in rookie ball for too long. I mean, he'll probably finish out the season there just to get his feet wet in pro ball, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts in Double A next year. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on him. But let's move on now to the more unfortunate, I guess, story of today's game. We were hoping we were gonna make a winning video because it's been a while since we done one of those, but we got to stick through it. We can't just make videos on wins, so we figured we'd throw some positive news in there. And if let's just get into it. They lost today. It was an ugly game. The defense was horrible. 4 errors. I don't even know really where to start with this game. We're not going to cover it for too
Yeah.
long because, of course, when you're losing this many in a row, there's only so much analysis you can do at this point other than just move on. But I'll pop up the box score here out of the pitchers. What'd you see? I'll start with Alek Manoah quickly. What'd you see at Alek Manoah tonight? 2 earned runs. Doesn't tell the full story. He gave up 5 unearned and 2 earned, 8 hits. He was getting hit around a little bit. I mean, he battled, but he didn't do the job.
Yeah, it's not enough to just battle anymore. You got to go out there and execute. And Manoa was doing great before that comebacker came and hit him on the leg. And I thought everything went downhill from there. Or the defense went downhill. His location was no longer there. The velocity was not there from the start, but it was a cold night in Boston, and the pitchers just didn't look good, except for, of course, the Boston ones who managed to shut down the Blue Jays after Nick Pivetta gave up that moonshot to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So the bullpen, I thought they did a pretty decent job apart from Anthony Bass, and we'll leave that conversation for another day. Let's focus on the positive things. Trevor Richards, I'm really starting to come around on him. He has been a workhorse for this bullpen, and where would they be without him? I know you see the 2 hits and the 3 walks there, but this guy has been eating innings and pitching quite a bit for this bullpen that has been taxed, and he's always ready. So I know we rag on him and we say he's not as good as we want him to be, but where would they be without him at this point? Because he is an innings eater in that bullpen, and Nate Pearson is shaping up to be that kind of guy too. His velocity was a tick down as well because of the cold temperature, but he's looked good ever since he's gotten the call, and hopefully he can start to get some more situations going forward. But I was happy that the game did not get out of control in a sense because it could have gone extremely sideways, and we could have been talking about a 15-3 loss here as opposed to a 8-3 loss. And you got to give credit to Trevor Richards and Nate Pearson for that.
Yeah, and like you said, Trevor Richards, he obviously had not a great game, and a pretty poor outing. But like you said, he's been pitching so much, and he has a great ERA on the year. I don't know what it's at now, but only 1 earned run. But Nate Pearson, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. He's looking very, very good out there.
He can't.
No, and he's providing innings that are desperately needed in the bullpen. And we're gonna leave Anthony Bass for now. I think we're gonna touch on him in a future video, but he has been nothing short of atrocious this year. Hopefully he figures it out, but I don't want to touch on him too long. I also want to give a quick shout out. I thought it's due. We didn't do a video yesterday to the Red Sox hitting team. I guess their team in general, but their hitters have been unbelievable. Their approach looks completely revamped. They're taking walks. They're hitting. They're just impressive. So I'll just give a quick shout out to them, and we'll touch on our hitting really quick today. It was pretty bad aside from the Vlad moonshot and the Varsho home run. Again, if you haven't seen the moonshot, I didn't get the clip. I probably should have, but go check it out on Twitter. It was an absolute moonshot. I know a lot of you probably won't because they lost, but it was the wind held it, and it still went 450 feet out of the yard. But Peter, did anyone impress you other than, I guess, Varsho and Guerrero? I'm going to give a quick shout out to Kevin Kiermaier. He played great today. His hustle's amazing, but I don't think the hitters really did enough. And when they were down 2-0, and when there was first and third or second and third, I think it was first and third with no outs, and we didn't score a run, I texted you immediately saying that's going to bite us. And ultimately, we lost by more than that. But you just got to capitalize on those. But any final thoughts here?
Yeah. Of all the four losses in this losing streak, this was the ugliest one, and hopefully they can turn the page and get a win and play well behind Kevin Gosman tomorrow. But Dalton Varsho, I guess, is the silver lining in this game because he
He's back.
back-to-back games, he's back. He's back, and he looks a lot more comfortable at the plate now. He's hitting the ball with force. He's pulling it in the air, so that's a great sight to see. I'm still not worried. I just want to see them try to move forward and not let this affect their performance for the rest of the way. But I don't think it will. I don't think it will.
No, and like they said in the broadcast, and it's something teams are gonna have hot streaks, they're gonna have cold streaks, and at this point, we just gotta keep playing. It was bound to happen at some
It's
point.
a simple formula, man. It's a simple formula. When you pitch well, you win. When you don't, you lose. And during that 6-game winning streak,
Unbelievable pitching.
6 straight quality starts, apart from Manoah, who went 5 innings. Now you can't even get your starter past the 5th inning. So that's the problem. That's where the problem is. The starting rotation needs to step up, give the bullpen a break.
And tomorrow is Kevin Gosman, and that's what we pay him the big bucks for, is to win us that game tomorrow, get us out with a win, and then we move on to the series. And like you said, Dalton Varsho, great game out of him. He revamped he's going back to the leg kick, and that's paying wonders. And shout out to you for calling his breakout series, because he definitely did that. But that'll wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of hybrid video. Sometimes when you're losing a lot, we can't just have post-game losses every single day, so we'll throw some news in there. But we'll be there for the pregame tomorrow. Thank you guys for your support. See you then.
Thanks.